Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, and this is my top 10 favorite albums of 1985 in metal, rock, and prog. 1985 wasn't as deep of a year, so I don't really have too many honorable mentions here in terms of stuff that I listen to that I love. But I will shout out a couple of interesting releases that I checked out um, as I was making these lists that I thought were kind of cool. Dicky, which is a demo by Fates Warning, just features two demo versions of tracks that would appear on their full-length album, The Spectre Within. I thought it was cool to listen to the demo versions of those. And then Three Ships by John Anderson. This is his fourth solo album, and it's a Christmas album, which is kind of weird and interesting. Most of the tracks are pretty interesting when it comes to Christmas songs. I usually hate Christmas music, but this is kind of interesting because it's progressive rock, like kind of progressive pop rock Christmas music. But it's definitely a huge step down from his first three albums in quality. I cringe a bit when the lyrics get too into the Jesus side of things. But the album does feature Trevor Rabin on guitar. He's a great player, even though he doesn't do too many flashy or shiny things on this particular album. All right, those are not really honorable mentions, but two interesting releases that anyone who wants to go deep on 1985 and likes prog should check out. But into my top 10 proper, number 10 is Power Windows by Rush. This is new wave with progressive rock and art pop influences. It's their 11th album. Honestly, it's probably in my bottom 5 Rush albums. If it would be a pretty average sounding album for most other bands, but for Rush, it's just very disappointing after all their albums up to this point, for me being at least very good and several of them being masterpieces. It's still Rush though, so the songs are well written, they're well performed. I think part of what bothers me is the almost complete abandonment of their progressive rock sound in favor of this more new wave and synth pop rock sound. You should still check this out if you're a Rush fan, though. It's growing on me a bit as I listen to it more. That's Power Windows by Rush. Number 9, I have Freaky Styley by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is funk rock. It's got some hip hop influences. It's their second album. This is before John Frusciante and Chad Smith joined the band and really elevated their sound, skill level, and memorability. But it's still an okay album. It's pretty average though, or maybe slightly above average album in the grand scheme of things. But I'll give them some bonus points for being fun and unique sounding on this. Some of the lyrics on here though are pretty ridiculous and cringeworthy on tracks like Sex Rap and Yertle the Turtle. They're pretty juvenile, but the album has this fun vibe to it, so that's why it's on here. Freaky Styley by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Number 8 is Focus by Jan Akkerman and Dish Van Leer of the band Focus. This is instrumental jazz fusion with symphonic prog, electronic, and ambient influences. It's basically a Focus album, but was released under the name Jan Akkerman and Dish Van Leer instead. Those are two of the leading men of the band Focus, but I guess without the rest of the band, they didn't use the band name as the artist for this album, but then they named the album Focus. It's light, mellow, and jazzy compared to what the proper Focus band albums sound like, but it's still good if you're interested in that kind of thing. Number 7 is Stereotomy by the Alan Parsons Project. And in fact, the Alan Parsons Project released 2 albums in 1985, so I'm going to put them right back to back. My number 6 is also Vulture Culture by the Alan Parsons Project. They're both progressive pop rock albums. They both have some new wave and symphonic influences. It's the 8th and 9th album by Alan Parsons Project. And these aren't really the best work by the Alan Parsons Project, but they are still pretty good. They're not their worst work either. So that's Vulture Culture and Stereotomy by the Alan Parsons Project. Number 5, I have The Spectre Within by Fates Warning. This is heavy metal. It's got progressive influences. It's their second album. Again, one of the earliest examples of the progressive metal sound coming to formation, like what I mentioned with Queensryche in my last video. The closing track here is Epitaph, which is almost 12 minutes long, and it's a mini prog metal epic. My number 4 is Brother, Where You Bound by Supertramp. This is progressive pop rock with blues influence. It's their 8th album. My favorite track on here is the title track, which is a long prog epic. It's about 16 and a half minutes. It has readings from George Orwell's 1984. Number 3 is Silent Nights by Rick Wakeman. This is progressive rock and hard rock. It's an album by the great keyboardist, well known from his time in Yes. The single on this album was Glory Boys. The title track's opening sounds like the opening of the Phil Collins song In the Air Tonight, but then it gets proggier later and has a section with 7 beats per bar and a sick bass line. The album is pretty cheesy sonically and lyrically, but it's fun, so I like it. That's Silent Nights by Rick Wakeman. Number 2 is Misplaced Childhood by Marillion. This is neo-prog rock. It's their 3rd album, a concept album loosely based on the childhood of their lead singer Fish. And probably one of my favorites by Marillion. And yeah, like it a lot. Number 2. So number 1 is Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good by Megadeth. This is thrash metal, their debut album. It's a really solid debut thrash metal album. For me, it's not quite as strong as Metallica's Kill 'Em All, but it's pretty close. All the songs are good on here, really fast guitar playing, but the playing is a little messy and sloppy compared to today's standards, and the production is a bit raw, but that to me kind of gives it a little bit of charm as well. The only song that I'm not sold on here is These Boots, which is either a cover or perhaps a parody of These Boots Are Made for Walking, which is written by Lee Hazelwood and was originally recorded by Nancy Sinatra. The song has since been covered by many artists, including Megadeth, Billy Ray Cyrus, and Jessica Simpson. Yeah, I don't think they needed that cover of These Boots, although maybe they're like parodying and kind of making fun of it. I'm not really sure. It sticks out like a sore thumb, but the rest of the album, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good by Megadeth, is a great album. So check out that awesome thrash metal debut album. That's it for my top 10 albums of 1985. Let me know what you think of this list down in the comments, and what are your favorites of 1985. I probably missed some great ones, so let me know if I missed any of your favorites. And hit that subscribe button if you want to be in the loop on when I'm releasing my next video. My next video in this series will, of course, be 1986. Check out my other videos in this series if you like this as well. And until next time, peace out.